Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 134 of the Holding Court podcast. Today, a new chapter starts for the Turners as Justin has finally signed with a new team. We'll share all the details and how I feel about Justin going to the North Side. Dun, dun, dun. All coming up right now on Holding Court.
Bum, 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 bum.
They say you can't fight City Hall. They do say that, right? That's a phrase?
I think so.
But you did, in a way. You fought City Hall.
No, not really.
What do you mean? You set out.
Yeah.
Okay, so our
HOA is not City Hall.
Listen, this HOA is tougher than City Hall. So our Arizona home, we're obviously part of an HOA. We don't have a choice. If we had a choice, we would not be a part of this HOA. And there was a little issue that came up, and the only way to get it resolved was to go in front of the board at the monthly HOA meeting. And I wasn't here with you yet, and you marched into this thing on a mission, and you fought City Hall. I'm proud of you. I think this should just go on your resume, and please tell the story for everyone.
I mean, I think it might be a little more dramatic in your mind than it actually was. But
I mean, everything is, but yes, continue. Sure.
It wasn't so much that my only choice was to go to this board meeting. It just so happened that the board meeting was here while I was here. And the original option was going to be that the president of the HOA presents this to the board to see if, this is about parking, getting a parking spot approved. And when I found out the meeting was Tuesday at 4:30 and I could go, I was like, oh my God, like this is going to be way better if I go and bring it up and talk about it. And, the president of the HOA, she's like, listen, these aren't my rules. Your guys' board votes for this stuff. I just have to enforce them. And she makes it seem like the board is this big, bad, tough board that no frills and everything's straight. And I'm like, okay, so I was like, all right, I'll just come.
Bunch of stiffs.
Yeah. I was like, all right, I'll just come to this meeting and see what I should probably go to it anyway. I mean, we've had this condo for 10 years now, and we spent significant amount of time out here, but I actually never been to one of the board meetings. So I was like, all right, this will be cool.
The stars were lining up for this to happen.
Right. So I roll over there, the board meeting goes, and, I can't they don't let the residents speak until the very end. And each resident gets 5 minutes of floor time. It is kind of like City Hall. And
I knew it.
So I'm sitting there and they're going through all this stuff, and it was just the craziest thing. I'm literally laughing to myself, some of the stuff that happened. 6 months ago in July, someone on the other side of our complex backed over a fire hydrant, knocked it out of the ground. Well, apparently they didn't address this issue of a fire hydrant laying on the ground until December or January. And when they went to go get the fire hydrant to fix it, someone stole the fire hydrant. And so the topic in this board meeting was, okay, we have to replace the fire hydrant. How much do you think a fire hydrant costs? I maybe told you the answer to this.
I already know, so I'm not going to guess. But
it was $6,000 for a fire hydrant to replace it.
What is it made out of?
Gold, 14 karat gold.
Solid gold.
I don't know, 24 karat gold.
Yeah.
But anyways, and then some of the residents are like, wait a minute, you let the fire hydrant sit on the ground for 6 months and then it was stolen and now we have to pay for it to be replaced? Isn't this on the HOA or the city who came out when it originally was run over and yada, yada, yada? And
I would think that would be the city's responsibility, since we don't own the fire hydrants.
Well, supposedly the city stored it or picked it up and stored it, but there was residents that said it was sitting on the ground for 6 months. It was just sitting there. And then, randomly, when the city's finally going to come back out and fix it. Like the night before, apparently, it gets stolen and scrapped for metal.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay. And then we have cameras like everywhere around here.
Yeah.
Right. And
allegedly,
they're like, can't we check cameras? Shouldn't whoever hit it pay for it? And they're like, oh, well, our cameras only go back 30 days. It's like, well, then shouldn't we have addressed this in July when the guy ran over it? Like a fire hydrant's kind of important. If something goes down, like probably should have a fire hydrant.
Right.
So I don't know. That was one thing.
There was a changing of the guard of the HOA because there was like a clear change in policies and things being taken care of. It used to be the wild, wild west around here. People had, I don't know, like Arizona Cardinals flags just draped over the garage. Like people had trash left out. It wasn't great. And as like a get off my lawn person that hangs out on Nextdoor and does all that, you need a little, order in the area. So I get it. And then I feel like it shifted to an extreme and we started getting these letters in the mail of violations. Someone backed into our garage during the season when we weren't here, and it was our responsibility to fix it and paint it. We started getting these notices of every month that it's not fixed and painted. And it was, mind you, a minor dent that obviously was upsetting someone. And you asked for the shade of the garage door because everything is obviously uniform and it has to be the exact same color.
Well, I was actually threatened. I was like, if the paint doesn't match the paint for the entire complex, you will be fined more.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so what's the Pantone?
Yeah.
Then I'll let you finish. Sorry.
They didn't have it.
We don't know.
We don't know the Pantone. It's the mystery Pantone. So they said to color match it. And then they said, oh, we're actually going to repaint everything. So we're not going to bother to figure out the old Pantone. Just like, okay, well, then why don't you paint my garage door? And they said, oh, well, it might not be happening for a couple of years. So a bunch of shit. We also had a little dog gate on our balcony because our dogs are little peanuts and could obviously peep out and people are walking by. And they got mad that there was a little gate. And it's a mess.
They actually accused us of like, this is Arizona. They actually accused us of leaving. They're like, you can't leave your dogs on the balcony.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's leaving their dog on the, it's like 115 degrees out here.
Right.
Who's leaving their dog on the balcony? Obviously it's not that hot right now. But I'm like, this has nothing to do with like us going out of town for the weekend and just leaving our dogs on the balcony. Like, I'm like, if there's a dog walking on the street or something happens or whatever, this drag strip that we're on.
We live on a drag race.
And the dogs like get excited and run out there. Like we just don't want them to fall off the balcony. That's all it's for. And so after some like back and forth, they waived that one.
Yeah. The gate is still there. So, okay. Back to this meeting. Did you change what you were wearing? I know you were just hanging out on the couch after a practice. Did you change what you were wearing to go to this meeting or you just strolled on over?
I just strolled on over.
Okay.
Yeah. And went, like I said, sat through, listened to everything, listened to all the proposals. And then it was my time to shine. They said, anyone.
Did you stand up?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Oh, I picture a podium.
I think I should give some context here. Like when we first moved in here, like people were literally selling parking spaces in front of their garages.
For the Super Bowl.
For like events around here.
Yeah.
Like, so there were cars everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it was like, when you said Wild Wild West, it was literally Wild Wild West. Like driving through here was definitely a fire hazard. Like people were like parallel parking cars in front of garages, blocking people's garages. People couldn't get out of the garages. Like it was insane. So like,
we needed a little
some law and order was due for the parking, but like you said, they went extreme. So there's probably like, I don't know, 40 to 50 outside parking space, not outside, but like public parking spaces in our complex.
I'd say 30. And
there's probably, I don't know, 60 to 70 buildings in our complex, give or take. So obviously there's not enough parking for everyone to just park out there. And they decided that they were only going to let there be 6 parking spots on our side of the 40 be rented by residents. So there's only 6 available spots of the 40. You have to apply and present it to the board, and it has to get approved. And then you get to pay a monthly fee on top of our HOA fee to park in a public, essentially open parking spot in our building. And my point this whole time was like, look, like even if I only had one car, we have a garage. I was like, my wife's car wouldn't even fit in my garage. I was like, so I have to pay an extra $200 a month just for my wife to be able to park in our complex. Like, that makes no sense. Like, we already pay X amount of money. And she's like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. You need to get a smaller car. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. So
mind you, one time you did park in front of our garage, which has a small driveway, and your car was towed.
Yeah, I thought it was stolen. I thought it was stolen.
Yeah.
I woke up in the morning and went down, and I don't even know if it was in the morning. I don't remember. But it wasn't even parked there for long. And I went out and I was like, oh my God, someone stole my car. And I called the police, filed a report, and they're like, your car's not stolen, it was towed. You can go to this tow company and get it back. And it was like $350 to get it out of the tow. So I'm like, hey, what the heck's going on? And they're like, you're not allowed to park in front of your garage. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
anyways.
Context.
So yeah, so it's kind of crazy. I'm like, my wife's car wouldn't even fit in my garage anyway. And she's basically like, well, then get a smaller car. And I'm like, okay, like that's wild. And so I'm like, okay, there's got to be something we can do. And she's like, no, there's 6 spots here. Just fill out this application and write a email, and I'll present it to the board, and they'll decide whether or not they'll allow you to park a car. And I'm like, okay. So then the day before, I ran into the manager, and she's like, oh, I've been looking at some stuff. There's only 6 spots on the south side. They're all rented out, but there is a spot available on the north side, which is across the street, completely different complex. And she's like, so you can apply and pay $200, and your wife can park on the other side in a different complex on the other side of the street. And I was like, wait a minute, you want me to pay $200 a month so my wife can park not in our complex?
Super convenient.
Like, what is happening? I'm like, you realize there's at least 34 other open spaces in here. And we're a resident. We never rent our condo to anyone. Like, we're the only people who reside here. And we're willing to ridiculously pay for an open parking spot in here. But you are saying that you have to like keep it available for guests, which, by the way, if you're a guest, you're only allowed 48 hours in here. And then you have to remove your car for 48 hours before you can come back in here, or you'll get towed again. So like these rules are just like,
we're going to have an entire show.
It's insane. Like, I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Long story short, I got in front of the board. I'm like, hey, listen, here's the deal. My wife's coming in town. Her car's not going to fit in the garage. We need a parking spot over here. I'm not going to ask my wife and my 8-month-old son to park on the north side. Like, there's 36 available spots. They're open. Can I please purchase a parking spot here for the next month? And miraculously, 2 spots on this side had just opened up. So they're like, oh no, it'll work out. So I ended up getting the parking pass, and
did the crowd cheer?
No, but here's the crazy part. It's still like an assigned parking spot, and it's like not the convenient 3 spaces that are right by our condo. Like, we can't park in those 3 spots. We have to park further away because those are the assigned spots. It's like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Like, the common sense aspect is just not activated here.
You're very passionate about this.
Yeah, you just got me all fired up.
I know. Should we keep going? Do you want to talk?
I mean, there's other stuff that
everyone's
they talk
like,
about.
we're over your HOA.
Yeah, and no one cares.
No,
yeah, I'm sure everyone's HOA has. I'm sure everyone has crazy stories that just is like, what?
I just think maybe we need to be a part of we need to be on the board, because whoever is making these rules, but obviously
I don't have that time. I don't have that time.
I got nothing but time.
I mean, there was so many things that came up that I had to like bite my tongue.
I
like,
know.
what are we doing?
I just don't like when things aren't logical and there's an easier way to do things. And I would want to be consulting on this board and telling them how to improve everything. And I don't think it would work.
Like one of the other issues is the hot water heater for the pool is out and they're not going to replace it.
Should we just send this episode to them?
They're not going to replace it because guess how much it is? $6,000.
So,
but we're going to pay $6,000 for the fire hydrant that we should have.
Well, we actually need a fire hydrant.
I understand, but this should have been done months ago.
Could you imagine they take it to a vote and they're like, okay, kids, heated pool or fire hydrant? And someone's like, I do enjoy a warm pool. I
mean, no one, like, there was one lady in the meeting because, so the same place they wanted you to park on the other side, the pool on our side isn't heated. So it's like cold and it's not like cold in Arizona, but it gets cold at night. So there's one lady that's like, hey, like I wanted to, swim in the heated pool, but it was really hard because I had to get a parking pass over there and I was only allowed to park there for 2 days at a time, or I would get towed to go to the only heated pool. Like, it would like never in a million years did I think I would have heard some of the stuff that was going on here. It was wild.
Yeah.
I think it's time to sell, baby. I think we need to get out of this place.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for joining.
Oh, man. Even Mooney's fired up. Look at her. She's like on your lap. Like, what's going on?
I feel like I'm wrestling an alligator. No, I love that. And I don't know. I see a spot for me at some point in the future in, I don't know if it's the school board, the PTA, local government office, something. It gets my juices flowing like no other. And so I'm glad you went. It worked. If you would have got denied, I would have been, I guess, embarrassed to know you. Maybe.
I don't know. I couldn't fathom a situation where like you wouldn't be allowed to park your car in our complex.
Right.
Like, that I would have lost my mind.
I mean, I would have been fine and made it work, but it obviously is a dream now to have my spot.
And the hard part is like the lady who runs the HOA, obviously, like, again, and I've told her this and I've had some heated arguments, but I'm like, look, I get it. Like, you're just enforcing the rules that these other people voted for. But I'm like, I know you're the messenger, but like, do you hear how insane this is? Like, this is like literally like some of the craziest shit I've ever heard. Yeah. And it's coming out of your mouth. So like, do you understand what you're saying?
You just needed her to acknowledge that although she's not the one that made the rules, but she also shipped us clickers to our house in like a regular USPS envelope and they were stolen. And
we don't have enough time for this episode.
Yeah. Anywho. Okay. Well, that is all.
Do you think she's a listener?
It's all fair. I don't think she is. No one in this meeting knew that you were you were here, a baseball player or anything, right? You were just under the radar.
I mean,
guy in cargo shorts that marched over to the meeting.
Typically fly under the radar anywhere I go, but the big orange beard kind of gives it away. Some of the people on the board have been here for a long time, so I think they'd know. So. Well,
then maybe you got special consideration. You wouldn't have got the parking spot.
Well, otherwise, I don't know if I would have. I think it was because I showed up in person.
Yeah, that's true. I honestly think that that's better. I always say if we can just get in the room with someone, like if someone is disagreeing with us, if it's something for our foundation, if we just need to get face to face with them.
Right.
Because we're mighty convincing in person. But
well, it's just easier to say no to an email or a text or whatever. But when you're right in front of someone and you're making a compelling argument, then it's...
I love that.
Right? It's like, it's harder to be a bully in person.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, I think we have a couple minutes left to talk about you signing with a new team. I really didn't allow the 20 minutes for the HOA discussion, but send me your ridiculous HOA
there's got to be some wild stuff.
I would love to hear them, and maybe I'll hop into your meeting and help you fight them. But you...
Or me.
You've finally signed with the team. I say finally because you signed. It was weird. Things were starting and camps were starting. Obviously, pitchers and catchers report a week earlier. But I want to say the day you officially signed was day 2 of official camp day. And games were starting early. I feel like the game started that first, Thursday of the week?
I don't even know. I don't know what the actual day was. It was all a blur. And it was like, okay, sign, figure out a million things, pack the car. and then head out and get going as fast as possible. Because it is the Cubs and because it is a abbreviated spring training for them. And we'll talk about that later. But, it was weird. It was weird. There's still so many guys that haven't signed.
No, it was a weird free agency. I think it was held up a couple times and it still hasn't fully resolved, but things happen during spring training. Unfortunately, there's movement and there's injuries and all that. So teams have gaps that they need to fill. So I'm sure all those guys will get signed soon, but there's still a big chunky list of guys. So it was wild. You were on that big chunky list for a hot minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It was literally like getting to the point where I was like, man, well, I guess the bright side is I'm really loving like being at home and hanging out with Bo and you and the dogs. And like, I mean, like maybe this is it. Like maybe.
No. You started to get that itch that you get, and you like, I don't know, like you get it kind of earlier. It happened during COVID when you guys were shut down and you weren't playing, and you start to get a type of way where I know that it's time for you to go. And obviously years down the road, it won't be time to go and play. Who knows what you'll be doing, but I don't know how we're going to satisfy that itch that comes upon you, but
golf.
I don't know. It's something about you when you find out you're going, or when, I don't know, you just get a certain way, and it was time. And I know you want to say, oh, I had so much fun at home with Bo, and obviously it was a fun off season and it was a big change, but you were ready. You were definitely ready to go. You can say that you were fine and you were loving your time at home, but it was time to see you off. It was like, bye. And you just got that. You just have a little extra pep in your step. And I see the pictures of you getting to the field the first day and hanging out with all the guys again. And I don't know. There's just something. It just does something to you.
It felt similar to back in 2013 when I got non-tendered by the Mets.
Yeah.
And I was doing everything, and when I was making my swing changes, and I was hitting with Doug and Marlon for 5 days a week, like 3-4 hours a day.
Yeah.
And like putting in all this work and doing all this stuff and preparing for the season, but not knowing like where I was going to go. It had that same feel. And like, I mean, that was late when I signed with the Dodgers, but this was like late.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot. Like I've done all this stuff. Like I feel like I'm ready to go, but like, I mean, is there going to be somewhere to go? Like, and I had kind of the same, like similar feelings that I had in 13. I was like, wow, like, the Mets were not a good team. We were not a good team when I got non-tendered. And I was like, man, if the Mets are letting me go, like who's going to want me?
Yeah.
Right. And obviously wasn't really the case this year. It was more about a different number, but yeah, I was kind of like, oh man, like, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. So
yeah.
that part was, I don't know if except for in 13, like I've ever had that like thought kind of creep into my head.
And I think you're like ignoring that there were teams that were, it's just about like, if it's the right fit for you, if it's the right fit for them and what they need and all that. I think like it's like silly to act like you were just sitting around and like the phone wasn't ringing. And so it wasn't like you would be out. It's just, it had to like make sense for you, I think.
Right. There was conversations with a lot of teams, but like
a
lot of teams never like really got to, I mean, I had multiple offers, but like it wasn't,
it's just scenarios and playing time and roles and certain things and considering different factors, I think. It just needed, I don't know. It's all complicated. It's such a weird thing. And I think that guys get so excited when they reach free agency, and you always tell them, it's same with like arbitration. It's like you've earned it and it's a cool rite of passage, but it's not fun. I don't know.
No.
Maybe for some people it's fun, but like,
I feel like it's enjoyable for like 4 or 5 guys every year.
Yeah.
But for the rest of guys, it's not as glamorous as you think.
Yeah. So when it was looking like it was going to be Chicago with the Cubs, and I always say I don't ever tell you where to go. I don't ever say, everyone always asks, where do you want to go? What's your ideal city? And I don't know. Do you think that's fair to say that I don't ever make the decision for you?
No, you just let me know that I made maybe the decision you wouldn't have made afterwards.
When have I done that?
I'm kidding.
No, I famously had the pro and con sheet when it was between LA and Boston in 2014. I got to find that. I know I have to have it somewhere. It was good.
I'm sure you have it.
It was really good. It was extensive. I always said I would just love at some point in Justin's career for us to have a summer in Chicago.
Right.
That is fair.
That is fair.
But it is also no secret that I am a big Chicago White Sox fan. And everyone knows that. You know that. And this one, I love you to death, but this one is going to be a big change. And it's funny because I always think, okay, do I want to downplay that I am a huge White Sox fan? And everyone always says, oh, when Justin's done playing, you'll be a Dodger fan or you'll be whatever fan. No, I will go back to not go back, but I will reinvigorate my fandom for the Chicago White Sox. I'm missing a few key years here with them, unfortunately, but it won't change. And I don't think anyone that is an actual sports fan should want me to change, right? Like I'll be a fan of whatever team you are on, even if it is the rivalry of my childhood team. I'm having a difficult time with this. I'm being very selective with my words, but I will be the biggest fan and the biggest fan of yours no matter what. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to it. But so it looked like it was going to be this, and it's such a weird feeling because I'm thinking, okay, summer in Chicago is going to be incredible. Your team is really good. I mean, already has a really good start. So that's always exciting when you're playing meaningful baseball. And it started all kind of when it was looking like it was going down that road, like all these things are coming to my head. Like I'm going to be close to home. You'll get to experience Chicago in the summer, which is honestly the absolute best place in the country, I would say, to spend a summer. And I'm eventually, are you just laughing at me?
I'm laughing because I was like, Kourt's going to find a way around wearing like actual Cubs stuff. Like she's going to wear like the little Ralph Lauren bear stuff. So there's a bear on it. So she looks like a Cubs fan, or she's going to wear like some like Winnie the Pooh stuff, or she'll break out some, it's a little bear. I'm just referencing clothing that has little bears on it. So it's like, oh, look, Cubs, bear.
Catch me at Wrigleyville this summer in my Winnie the Pooh attire.
Yeah. I mean, I hope you're wearing pants, but
I will be dressed as Winnie the Pooh. No,
I feel like you're going to probably sneak in some like Bears gear in there. Like, hey, look, Chicago Bears, like Cubs. Yeah, it's all good. Just play it safe. But I asked, I was like, are you gonna dive into the Cubs gear? And you were like, I'll wear some blue and some red.
So I mean, this is deep for me. This is deep, and it's, I don't know. What's your big, like, do you feel as strongly as I do about another team in sports where it would be wearing the rivalry? I'm trying to think of Dolphins. Like
I would never, like I played for the Red Sox, and like there was no way I would throw a Patriots jersey on. However, like I did grow up a big Kings fan, and when we went to the Bruins game, like I bought a Pasternak jersey. So, and I actually wore it when we went down there. So I don't know if that like is close, but I stopped being like a diehard Kings fan when Tyler started moving around to different teams, and I started like following him around to different teams. And it wasn't like I was a diehard fan of those teams. It was like, those were the teams he's playing for. So I'm going to watch them. I'm going to root for him because I want him to do well. And I never stopped really like following the Kings, but like the Kings were always my team. Now I have a really good friend. We have a really good friend playing for other teams, and like I'm not going to root against him, right? Like we went to the one Kings game, and when Tyler was playing with the Canadians, and I actually like had a Tyler Montreal jersey,
Yeah.
Toffoli, and they put me on the Jumbotron, and I kind of like held it up, and oof, like I got booed for it.
Yeah, you did.
So like,
I don't know.
I don't know if this is similar, but
It's not, but it's close. It's close. I know you're a Kings fan. You love hockey, but I don't think you grew up like a big Kings fan. Like,
yeah, I
did
love
you celebrate when
hockey
they won the
and
cup? Like, did you?
Yeah, I was fired up.
But did you even watch the game? Like, were you?
Yeah, I
Really?
watched hockey.
I feel like your hockey fandom got stronger as you got closer with Tyler. But I don't know. I could be wrong. You were going to Rangers games, wearing Rangers jerseys when you were at the Mets. Like, you were all over the place.
I always loved hockey. Like, I always loved hockey. I loved hockey so much. I didn't even play the real hockey. I played roller hockey for like 3 years.
I need to show that photo. It's not a very
and
good
I was
example.
a Dallas Star for that. So
It's not a very good example. Listen, like, you go to spring training and they have footage of you and you're taking batting practice and Sammy Sosa is watching you. And I'm just thinking back to in 2003 and like the cork bat thing. And here I am buying a shirt outside of Guaranteed Rate Field, AKA Comiskey, AKA US Cellular at the time.
Cellular,
it was US
yeah.
Cellular. I bought the cork shirt with the Cubs logo from a guy on the street for like $5.
What was it? Got Cork or something?
No, it was like the Cubs logo, but instead of Cubs, I think it said Cork. I probably had a Got Cork. I don't know. These are all the thoughts that are going through my head, and I just have to live my authentic life. Like, do you remember the Subway sandwich face-off with Ozzie Guillen and Dusty Baker in that whole era, and everyone had to run to Subway and buy the Subway of the team that they were supporting? It was like the North Sider sub or the South Sider sub. And
which was the better sub?
Okay, so honestly, Ozzy's was fine, but I want to say it was like doused with an excessive amount of ranch dressing, which in my opinion does not belong in a sub. But of course, you go and you buy the South Sider. Right?
What was the North? What was Dusty's?
I think it was like a pepperoni sub or something with peppers and all that. It wasn't about the sub, Justin. It didn't matter.
It sounds like that's more up your alley. I'm just saying, like, you can't eat anything without peppers.
I love Dusty Baker, but my love for Ozzie Guillen runs deep.
That's
this
true.
is just, it's like
I can't believe Bo's not Ozzy, but
I know that was a name. That was honestly a name that was in the space. But he does have 2 Chicago names, and now with you being a Cub, his last name is now that of a famed Chicago athlete. So this is a whole thing. I'm excited for you. And listen, like, right when you signed, I get a message from Kyle Tucker's wife, and she sends me a link for the sweatsuit that we're all going to wear for Japan. And it's got the Cubs logos all over it. So listen, before you know it, you will see me. I've slowly eased into it. I think the first game I wore a red t-shirt. The next game, Bo had a little Chicago onesie with a Chicago hot dog. We can all agree on the Chicago style hot dogs. We can all agree that Chicago's amazing. I'm going to support you. I'm going to be cheering loud. I'm going to have Go Cubs Go in my head, hopefully every single day this summer. And it's going to be great. But I just felt like I had to just speak my truth. And listen, no one would want me to fake it. Like, you wouldn't want me to come on here. I'm like, oh my God, I've been the biggest Cubs fan. This is
oh no, I don't.
Yeah, like it's fair, and it's just that it's just part of it. It's part of it, and it's fine. And I'm actually really excited for you. I think it's going to be fun. But
it sounds like there's only one thing to do this year, and that is to win a World Series. So you'll be entrenched in the Cubs history for the rest of your life.
I know. I mean, it has been 20 years this year since the White Sox won the World Series. So it's and what
my boy Willie Harris was on that team, and he was the third base coach for the Cubs like the last 5 years. I played with Willie with the Mets.
Yeah. And
then I finally get a chance to come over to play with the Cubs, and he's not even there anymore. So that part made me sad.
Yeah, that is true.
But
I wonder where he falls on everything. It's tough. But I feel like you just have to, you kind of, at this point, you're like a little slew just bouncing around the league. So eventually we knew it was
I think that's sports today.
Yeah.
It's so hard and it's so rare to see a Clayton Kershaw who spends his entire career with with one team.
Yeah.
And you'll see it with, I mean, knock on wood, Aaron Judge will probably spend the rest of his career with the Yankees, but after those two guys, like,
no,
I don't know who's going to do it. So,
well, I think it's like you realize that baseball, as much as we love it, it's at the end of the day, it's a business. And I think that like the loyalty will kind of, as contracts get crazy and different things happen, like the loyalty is not going to be as strong for guys that at least like going up through their arbitration years and all of that, like until they'll probably be with the team. But then, I mean, you're going to see it with guys that are just going to obviously try out for agency and they're seeing these massive contracts happening. So they're going to go probably to the highest bidder in the best situation. And
can we go down a little side road real quick?
We already have today first, so let's do it again.
I think this is like probably important for fans to hear, right? Like this is the hard part about today's structure of how things work. And, you know, you come up through an organization and fans fall in love with guys. You know, the easiest ones for me to go with, there's like, I spent the most time with the Dodgers. So you have your Cody Bellinger, Jock Petersons, Corey Seagers, Walker Buehler's, right? That fans fall in love with these guys. And then it comes time for free agency, and it's not always in the best interest of these front offices to just keep guys around because they're fan favorites. So they decide to make a business move and go in the other direction. And a lot of times to kind of keep the heat off of them, they'll, you know, act like they're in the race and intentionally try to lose the bid. So then it looks like the player's the one that was greedy and wants to leave and has to go somewhere else. And now players are moving around so much. And the people that I think get it the worst is the fans. Like the fans fall in love with these guys and they're getting turned over and bouncing around so much. Like you see it all the time. Like, and me as a Dolphins fan, and Kourt can attest to this. If you go in my closet at the house, I have 30 Dolphins jerseys, and none of them are Dolphins anymore. They're all just like going all over the place. Like yada,
it's
yada,
tough to buy
like,
a jersey anymore.
It's like, why buy a jersey? Yeah. Like, why even buy one? Because all these guys
just
are
buy
just,
a jersey. Honestly,
yeah, they're going to be on a different team, and like the loyalty question, right? Like you want players to be loyal, but then are the front offices loyal to the players? Like never, right? Yeah. Like in only in a certain amount of cases,
right?
Do you see that happen? So, and maybe this is just me speaking personally. I don't know, because you know what I went through and the changes at the end of my time with LA, but like it's so hard for it. It puts the fans in a tough spot, right? Because you want to love the players and you want to root for them and you don't want to be mad at them, but like at the same time you are buying their jerseys, you are buying their jerseys, you are buying their stuff to support them, and now they're on another team, and what are you supposed to do with that stuff? And it probably leaves a lot of people angry and hurt and upset and feel empty and betrayed. But you know, the game is so hard for that loyalty from all sides now.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I articulated that right, but, you know, I feel for the fans is basically what I'm trying to say, because there's, you know, the players have this expectation that they're supposed to be so loyal to one team and one fan base and supposed to give their heart to them. But then at the drop of a hat, you know, they're in a trade or they're designated or they need a roster spot or they're gone. And then what? Like you gave your heart and soul to an organization and they flipped you, and you know, don't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
So sorry, that was another tangent.
You're just fired up today.
Today's
It's an off day, so you know you got to get a lot of energy out. I do like seeing the jerseys after the fact, though. It does warm my heart. If you ever go to a city, like we obviously went back to LA, but even just in Boston, like when LA would play out there, other teams, to see your jersey still out there and other guys' jerseys, it's kind of fun to play a little game when you're in the crowd and see it, and people staying loyal and still following you. It is funny because I'll get messages from people saying, hey, we're coming out to spring training. We're going to try to catch, you know, this player on this team and this player, you know, we're going to go see Corey with the Rangers. We're going to go see, you with the Cubs and we got to catch a Dodger game and we got to do this and we got to bounce around and see, so it is funny people that try to keep tabs on their guys and still support them. And it's cool. And obviously it meant a lot to them to have you in the organization. I think I would say a majority of the fans understand it. Like you obviously have the people that say, oh, you guys chase this or that or whatever, but it's both sides. And it's always funny that it always like you said, it's always on the player and it always looks like it was the player, but you got to look at the flip side too and kind of get a little perspective.
I think the perfect example that I missed real quick that I'll just drop is what just happened with Luka and the Dallas Mavericks getting traded to the Lakers, right? Like absolutely just destroyed an entire fan base in Dallas. Like what in the world is happening? Like
they're not happy.
Why in the world would you ever trade that guy? And they loved him. They put their heart and soul into him for many, many years. And you would have thought that a player of that caliber is going to be in one organization, and he didn't even have a choice.
Yeah.
So
I know it's brutal, but you do have a jersey curse with me. You buy me a Bears jersey every single year, and I don't think that I have an active player's jersey. Do I have an active player's jersey? I mean, you got
Romeo Odunze. I bought you that one last year. He's still there.
Are you sure?
Yep.
No, I'm saying he's there, but do I have that jersey?
Yeah. That's the one I bought you last year.
No Caleb jersey?
No, I didn't buy a Caleb jersey.
Why not?
I'm a big SC fan, but I didn't agree with them trading Justin Fields. So.
Okay. Well.
As not a Bears fan, but someone who watches the Bears because of you, like I thought that was a
new head coach, so we'll see. I don't know.
Huge mistake.
Like optimism was at an all-time high going into the season last year, and it's fine. We're fine.
Same.
It's all good. It's all good.
One of these years, one of our teams is going to make the playoffs. It's going to be great.
Sure, it's going to be. I know.
I guess the Dolphins made it a couple years ago, but
yeah, not for long. All right. Well, I wanted to get into like your first impression of the team. I feel like every time you go into a new team, I always make the same joke that it feels like we're switching high schools when we're a senior. And this was one team where I looked at the roster and normally I would know a couple people and I really didn't know really anyone, that many people. I've met a few of the girls, obviously, but I feel like you have to know more than you think when you go in, right?
See,
even like staff wise, player wise, like you have to know a few, but what were the vibes good the first day? Does it still feel weird? Did it feel natural? Were you fired up? What was it? I know you had a very long night. You drove in, you got in at 1:30, you had to go to your physical at 7 a.m. with the time change, all that jazz. So are you just running on adrenaline? What was that like?
Yeah, it was, we talked about it earlier. It was a whirlwind, like figure out I'm signing, pack everything up, get in the car, drive out. I got in at 2 a.m., 1:30, whatever it was. By the time I got settled and in bed, it was probably like 2:30. I had to be at the place to do blood work at 7 a.m. on the other side of Phoenix. So that took me a good hour and 10 minutes to get over there. But opposite of, you looking through the roster and not knowing, I feel like I knew a lot of guys, and I feel like I played with a lot of guys. Nate Pearson and Trevor Richards were with me last year, with the Blue Jays. Played with Reese McGuire. What?
It's fine. We can't edit that out.
Yeah, it was a little hiccup.
You're excused.
Reese McGuire, obviously, I'm forgetting a couple people, but I played with a lot of these. Greg Allen was with us with the Red Sox in spring training 2 years ago. So I played with a lot of these guys and obviously played against a lot of them and know them very well. Played against Dansby forever, played against Tucker forever. I talked to Ian Happ hundreds of times because we were team reps for the Players Association for a long time together. So just a lot of guys that have been around a long time, and it was exciting. It's exciting to get in there. I think it's a really good team. I think there's a really huge potential to make a deep run and win a lot of games. So I played with Ryan Flaherty, the bench coach, he was in the Dominican in 2012 when we went down there. We both played for Escogido together. Played against Quentin Berry for a long time, the third base coach. So there's a lot of guys in here that I've known or played with, both coaches and players. But yeah, I think it's an exciting spring going into this one. For the Cubs, obviously my first time with them. I don't know what the vibes were in past spring trainings, but I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I know that the Cubs fan base travels extremely well. I know that they have a huge following across the country. There's Cubs fans everywhere, and I know that, playing in another historic ballpark in Wrigley Field, calling it a home, is one really cool, because now I've gotten Dodger Stadium, Fenway, and Wrigley, so I'll have the three oldest parks that I'm getting the opportunity to call home, and I know that the atmosphere and the vibes in Wrigley Field are always up, and I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. When you hear that guys are, because there was a bunch of rumblings after you signed that guys were so excited to have you in the clubhouse, not even just as player on their team, excited for that, but just to pick your brain and talk hitting with you. I feel like that has to fire you up, right? Is that weird that, not weird, I guess that's not really the word, but is that cool to hear? Like, does that make you more excited to get there? And I mean, I know you could talk hitting for 10 hours a day. So I'm sure you saw some of that in stories when you signed that, guys were saying how excited they were to have you join them.
No, it's obviously it's cool to hear, right? And it's one thing for guys to like say all the right things and yada yada yada, but like that's one thing that I've been really excited about so far in my what's it been, 2 weeks we've been out here, a little more than 2 weeks.
Blur, I don't even know.
Is and again, before I even talk about this, like I don't pretend to have all the answers. I enjoy talking about hitting because I think it's hitting is so fluid. I don't think there's one answer. I don't think there's one way to go about it. I don't think there's one way to do it. I think there's so many variables that go into having to hit a baseball that it is just, you literally can learn something new and different every single day. And that's why I love being around the cage and I love talking. And so far, these guys have been fantastic, and they're curious and they want to talk, and not necessarily like asking for answers or wanting to know what they should do or yada yada, but just good like cage baseball talk and conversation that is healthy for teams and clubhouses. And I've always said, like, I respect curious players the most, meaning guys that are always interested or wanting to learn more, wanting to know more, wanting to get better, and have that curiosity and ask questions. And there's a lot of curious guys on this team, so I think that's a good recipe for a pretty good club. So I'm excited.
Yeah, you talked a little about it on the broadcast interview the other day, but I know the broadcasts have been weird and people haven't been able to get all of them. So just wanted you to touch on that. Before we go, this is a unique spring situation where you guys are actually starting the season in Japan. We'll head over there. What is it? Where are we? Where am I? Next week. And you'll have 2 exhibition games against the Giants and the Tigers in Japan. And then you'll play 2 games for real against the Dodgers, which should be exciting. But obviously that makes everything go so fast. And I don't know, does it feel like it's frantic right now, or is everyone just like getting into the swing of things? I think everything in the field.
I think everything in the field is going fine. The frantic stuff is that we're literally 6 days away from jumping on a plane and going over there. So
I'm frantic, basically.
Well, I mean, me too. Like,
it's a lot.
There's a lot of moving parts. We have a lot of like rules we have to abide by. Like, we're only allowed 1 guest, which now, if we were doing this trip a year ago, wouldn't have been a problem. But we're now a family of 3, so figuring out the logistics of that.
I was going to state his case to be your +1, and then I'm going to state my case. I know it makes it really difficult. And there's another big issue that actually is weighing heavy on me, where the series falls during the LA Marathon,
right,
which, as you guys know, I have participated in since 2018, and I've led a team of runners and walkers, and it is a huge part of our fundraising. And so having to make the decision to miss that this year, which is tough for the foundation, it's tough as a marathon ambassador, and I feel like I am letting my team down in a way, in a big way, because I feel like it's always, I'm out there with them. And that was kind of how everything started. You know, I said, if I'm going to have a team of fundraisers and we're going to be a partner of the marathon, that I will be out there too, and doing it to, you know, the max, and doing the 5K with everyone, and doing the marathon with everyone. So that is a decision that I had to make to miss that this year. But I still want to throw all my support behind all of our fundraisers, and I'll share that too. There are still spots if you want to represent in my absence to join the 5K the day before the marathon at Dodger Stadium, which is a really, really cool event too, and a really good course. But there's a lot that goes with it with this trip, but it feels like, you know, with baseball, I always say we celebrate everything. I'm all in, you know, we make the most of everything. We cherish everything. And we really do try to not take, you know, anything lightly, and go all in. So it felt right that I go on this trip with you. And it's not like I'm like, oh, wow, I have to go to Japan and go. Like, it's going to be the trip of a lifetime. I took Japanese as my language in high school for 4 years. So this is a long time coming. I know it's one of those bucket list trips for us. So
she's going to be my translator.
I am excited. Yes, I will be holding up my Google Translate, because I even popped on my Duolingo in Japanese, and I am trying to brush up as much as I can, but I think I'll be fine. It'll be good. It's just tough. You know, it's tough. And it was one of those decisions of, you know, it just sucks, because I obviously care a lot about the marathon, and I was training really hard for it. And it was also a big thing for me to do it after having a baby and being back out there and not missing a beat. Obviously doing it last year, very pregnant, was a challenge, and I was excited to do that again, but more to come. And I'll share our fundraiser if anyone wants to throw some support behind our runners. All of it's benefiting the those affected by the LA fire. So still a good cause, but yeah, you can tell it sucks for me in a way, in a big way. Yeah.
We're going to try to figure something out to where you can maybe virtually get something done to continue your streak, but we gotta talk with some people to see if we can work something out. So but not to end on a sad note. It'll be exciting, and we'll obviously do a whole recap of the trip and try to take you guys along as much as we can, and it should be exciting. From what I've heard, baseball there is incredible, and I know the fans are going to be fired up. I'm sure a lot of people will be traveling over there to watch and be at the series. We opened up against, I have a mouse in my pocket. You guys opened up against the Diamondbacks in Australia in 2014, and that was incredible. And obviously baseball wasn't big there, and it was still a whole lot of fun. And it should be good. I know you guys are, it's a cool experience. Obviously the travel is really cool, but it still is work for you guys. So a lot of the logistics are a lot, and travel's a lot, and it could be, you know, exhausting and all of that, but it should be, it should be a good one. I'm sure we'll come back with a lot to talk about culturally over there. But one reminder about what was so funny and genuine and cool about Australia is they usually play cricket in Australia. Yeah. That's like their big sport. And any cricket balls that go in the stands, they have to throw back. And when they found out that they got to keep the foul balls or the home run balls, like the place was more excited for a foul ball than anything else that happened in the game. Like they were like losing their minds that they got to keep the foul balls. And so that part of it was like, obviously we're playing in meaningful games that count, but like the just like pure joy that these people were getting over a foul ball, like realizing that they got to keep it and go home with it, was so cool and so worth the trip.
Yeah, it'll be
obviously fun. It's not going to be that way in Japan. Like, they are all huge baseball, and it's going to be a completely different experience, especially with our 5 Japanese players that are going over there between the 2 teams. But I feel like it's going to be
insane.
It's going to feel like a World Series game is what I'm anticipating.
Yeah.
Like the noise, the energy, the excitement. I think it's going to be like just out of this world experience as far as atmosphere. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And we will make sure to come back and give you guys the scoop on everything for sure. All right. Well, that is going to do it for today's episode, and a friendly reminder to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And we are now on YouTube, so you can watch our episodes so you don't miss us there. Make sure you're leaving comments. We love to read those and seeing all of your feedback on Apple and Spotify as well. So thank you all for listening, and we will talk to y'all next week.
Send us those HOA stories.
Yes. Send us.
See ya.
See ya. I don't say see ya. I say bye.
Yeah, I say see ya.
Okay. Should we do it again?
Bye. Oh.
See ya. Wait, no. Bye.
See ya. Bum 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 bum.